What's up, YouTube? Day 10. Day 10 in the October Horror Movie Challenge. Big day for me. Today's October 10th. This is actually my wedding anniversary. So, only got a couple films in earlier in the day, and then had a long day of, spending time with my wife and everything. So, three films in. First film I watched was Victor Crowley, the fourth installment of the Hatchet franchise. I'm a fan of the Hatchet franchise, just the sense of it's a horror film made by a horror. It's a horror film made by a horror fan for horror fans. It doesn't spare on the gore, it doesn't spare on the corniness of the storyline. It doesn't try to impress you with visual tricks or anything. Some good practical effects and just a very fun horror franchise. Victor Crowley being the fourth one, they up the kills. There's plenty of kills. Plenty of graphic kills. I mean, limbs getting torn off, heads getting stomped on, just anything possible. An arm getting shoved up an ass. Any possible kill you could think of, you could find in this film. So, has some good cameos. You get Quinn from Impractical Jokers, which is cool to see him branching out. I don't think it's as good as, well, it's definitely not as good as the first one. And it's probably on par with 2 and 3. 2 and 3 were, they're all kind of just like together, kind of, I hate to say like a blob all together. Like, they're all interchangeable, 2, 3, and 4, but they're fun. That's the thing with them. Like, these are movies you just throw on. If you just want to watch some horror movies and you're doing something, throw it on and just let it play. And you get a fun killing, a fun slasher film, cool character. I mean, Victor Crowley is awesome. Like, it should be such a bigger character. If Hatchet was released in the 80s, Victor Crowley would be as big as like Freddy, Jason, and Michael, because just the visuals of that character, how big he is and everything, the muscles, the big arms, it just, everything works about it. The film itself, I'd give it a 5.5 out of 10, but I think it's just because it's not the best made film, but it still is such a fun film. It's so rewatchable. So even though I'm not going into like the 6 territory, it's still a rewatchable film. Kills are all good in it. Just a lot of stuff about it it's fun. It's, like I said, it's a horror film for horror fans. Like, you can't show this to somebody and try to use this as an example of what horror is, because they're probably not going to like it. If somebody's not a fan of horror films, they try to watch that. They're not really going to care for it. They're just going to see it as like this gory, butcher mess. But if you're a horror fan and you get it, like, I don't know, it resonates better with you, I believe. Second film I watched was the pick of the day, which was Happy Death Day. I've seen this film previously this year, so I'm already rewatching it only about 6 months after I've seen it. Excellent premise. Like, when I saw the previews for this, first thing, I said what everybody else said, Groundhog Day, but for horror fans. And I mean, it is to an extent, obviously. Like, that is the whole premise, that she's reliving the same day, dying over and over again. But, I mean, it's cool with how they do the twist of, like, why it's happening. Basically, that she has to, solve her own death, figure out who's trying to kill her and everything. And it's fun, I'll say. But I like it that it's a different take on modern horror. Modern horror for me is like, I'd say it's hit or miss, but it's more miss than hit. There's, some gems in there, but for me, it seems like modern horror is usually that indie stuff that's thrown out there, like The Witch, Hereditary, that kind of stuff. When stuff is released on like a grand scale, like the last big release film I remember really, really, really thinking was like absolutely amazing was probably Cabin in the Woods. And then, I mean, after that you have like the Conjuring franchise and Insidious, but I mean, like, the way this was released, like, as a kind of like different take on the slasher film where it's the same person dying over and over again, it was an interesting premise. So it was cool because you kind of had that little bit of a indie types, like, marketing. I mean, it was a big marketing. It was marketed like a mainstream movie, but you had that like different take where it wasn't just like Jigsaw or any other like modern horror movie that's just shoveled out there to show off. It was done a little differently, and that for that it gets a little bit different spot. I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It's an easy rewatch. Like, it's not bad. I mean, you do pick up on a couple little things that I think seemed different when you first watch it, and then the second time you kind of like grasp what it, like, seeing and everything. And a lot more stuff makes sense. I mean, it's not a hard movie. You don't have to think overly for this. It's not anything that's gonna, you know, make your brain go crazy trying to figure out this case. I mean, it's a very self-centered, standard film, but just with a different twist. And the last film I watched, and I'm drawing a blank for some reason. Why am I drawing a blank? Oh, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye. I'm sorry about that. Another giallo from the gore man himself, Lucio Fulci. Not your typical Lucio Fulci movie. I mean, if you're thinking of like The Beyond and Zombie, just that gore and munch and like splatter and everything. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's not short of blood. I mean, you see blood in it, but I mean, this is more typical giallo, black gloves, cats everywhere, obviously because of the film. You know, you have all those tropes that are big in giallo films of previous, you know, well, not even previous. I mean, it came out in the time period of the giallo film in Italy. And it's, I mean, as a case, it's not, I don't think it's as good as like Your Vice is a locker room and only I have the key, because that twist was kind of more unexpected and they went into more detail with it after the twist. This was more kind of just a straightforward, you know, oh, this person's killing it. And you could probably guess the killer. If you're like really paying attention, you'll guess the killer. It's not creative in the sense of, you know, it's just, I mean, maybe because it's just Lucio Fulci doing it. Like, that's what the twist on it is. You know, you're not seeing him do a zombie movie or, you know, some gore movie, like just all out, like people getting slashed or something like crazy with like The Beyond. It's him doing just a straightforward giallo slasher. Like, there's nothing, there's no demons, there's no nothing. It's just a straightforward slasher. And it's good to see him because he's somebody who doesn't get enough credit for what he does, or sorry, what he did. That, I mean, he really was, like, he was always the poor man's Dario Argento. Like, I don't think he made as good of films per se, like in the sense that Dario was just a better filmmaker. Dario liked to show blood and stuff and gore, obviously, too. But Lucio always kind of was like that second tier guy. And it's not fair because if you're going to go Italian horror films, I mean, Bava, Argento, obviously, you have to be at the top. Mario Bava, not Lamberto, have to be at the top. But Lucio has to be like right there. Like, he's like right behind them. I don't think he should be grouped into like the group like Bruno Mattei and what is it, Santino? I don't know. Anyway, he shouldn't be grouped in that. He's on that upper echelon, but you never hear people talk about it because, you know, it's always, oh, he's a gore guy and he's just all about like the munch and the crunch of the zombies and stuff like that. And the guy can make movies. You know, he is a decent director, decent writer. He's proven it. I mean, he does like to go to gore, but so does Dario. So, I mean, it's not fair to Lucio Fulci. Anyway, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye, 6.5 out of 10. I really liked it. Great addition to the giallo genre. Cool seeing Lucio Fulci do that. So, better day today than it was yesterday. 3 decent films in. You know, nothing too crazy, nothing too over the top, but nothing terrible. No stinkers like Deadly Blessing or Deadly Friend. Deadly Blessing is a stinker too. Deadly Friend or Zero Boys. So, good night for me watching films. I guess I'll catch you on the flip side.